What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It is not only NFL draft season right now, but it's now Madden 20 news season. Last night, ahead of the first round of the NFL draft kicking off, we did get the first details on Madden 20 and some of the changes that are going to happen this year, and we'll get more information on those as the weeks and months come and go. And of course, we're going to be seeing the game come out early August again. The official release is on August 2nd, and there will be a version of the game that gets you a bit of early access. But the cover athlete is Patrick Mahomes, which really isn't too much of a surprise after his career really took off last season. It was a lot of fun to watch. And it's also fitting that he's on the cover, given the new mode they're touting in Madden 20 called Face of the Franchise, which is a quarterback career experience that is tied to franchise mode. EA is going to be talking more about this on May 2nd, but there's already an article from Game Informer that has some information about this. And what's cool is you do get to start out creating your player in college. It's not like you play through an entire college career, but according to the Game Informer article, you are going to start out as a backup of a college powerhouse who all of a sudden has to start during the college football playoff, very similar to when Cardale Jones took over Ohio State back a few years ago and led them to the national championship. So you get to customize your face, you choose one of 3 voices for your character, and there are 10 licensed schools that you get to pick from: Clemson, Florida, Florida State, LSU, Miami, Oklahoma, Oregon, Texas, Texas Tech, and USC. And at that point, you start to take over your player and you try to build up your draft grade. And there are dialogue options in the game. You have to answer questions from reporters. They'll ask you what NFL legend you look up to kind of set the starting point for your quarterback archetype. And they'll ask you about different things that help determine your personality. So it's kind of an interesting thing. Obviously, superstar mode or career mode hasn't really seen any meaningful investment in a long time in Madden, and I wondered if and when they'd ever get around to doing something like this again. Now, this is only for quarterbacks, so I'm hoping that, at least for a quarterback experience, it's really good because they can tailor the entire experience around one position, and a pretty important one. And there's also some franchise talk I'm going to get to. I'm excited to get into that. But you get to play through the college football playoff with your player and work on building your draft stock, and that includes going to the NFL Combine, which we haven't seen in Madden in probably 10 plus years. I know on Madden 08 you could perform combine drills to help set your skills there, but you also get to talk to NFL GMs, it looks like. According to this, there are cameos from Kyler Murray and Drew Lock, 2 of the quarterbacks in the 2019 class. And your performance will either put you as a high first rounder, low first rounder, mid-round pick, or late round pick. There are no undrafted options. And then it takes you to draft day, and if you're a projected high first round pick, you actually attend the NFL draft. If you don't, you watch the draft on TV with your agent by your side. It mentions in this article that however your experience plays out, don't expect to end up on a team that has an established quarterback already. They tried to make it realistic with the teams that would actually need quarterbacks. And it also mentions that there's a way to force yourself to an ideal team. So I really wonder how that draft experience is going to play out, because one of the tricky things with a career mode that puts you with the last draft class is that draft happened and you'll just be selected with one of those picks that was already used to take another player. And that's an issue that's been in sports games as long as they've kind of had this structure. It's not really a big deal, but it's kind of just the weird part of the whole experience. But once you're on an NFL team, you're trying to make it to the starting lineup, and there are more cutscenes and branching dialogues. Apparently it's similar to NBA Live 19's The One mode, which I'm not familiar with. But once you make it to the NFL, the scenario engine, which also is a big new thing for franchise mode, kind of takes over. And this scenario engine, I think, has a lot of potential. Hopefully it's done right. It's a new idea that I think definitely is something franchise fans will like. Obviously, my main priority is looking at gameplay. I'd rather have rock solid gameplay than any features, but obviously there are going to be new features. And hopefully when we learn about gameplay and we can actually play it, that there are some big changes from Madden 19, because a lot of people were frustrated by it and I didn't get to do my traditional franchise experience the way I have wanted. But back to the articles, the scenario engine takes over, and this system is meant to deliver new storylines throughout the season. You get to interact with different people, from coaches, teammates, trainers, reporters, and I'm not sure if there is a morale system in the game or if it's just going to be these situations that kind of mimic a morale system. But it mentions an example of like a star receiver wanting the football, and he'll tell you to get him the ball, and you decide the number of touches you're promising to him, and if you don't meet that, his morale will take a hit. So hopefully there is a deep morale system, because I've really wanted that in Madden for a long time. I want to be able to mimic those storylines of players who aren't happy with their current situation, they're not getting the football, they're tired of losing, whatever it is. It mentions in here that if that player's morale drops enough, depending on personality, they may request the trade. That's the kind of thing I think all of us have wanted to see in franchise mode, and that's what will keep it interesting if you have these storylines, if they're done well, to kind of give you a unique experience every year in franchise. Now, this next part, I'm not sure if I like this yet. I really gotta see how this is implemented. But it mentions in the article, other players may challenge you to rise to their level during the course of your career as well, which could allow you to earn one of their superstar abilities, a new feature in Madden 20. So this reminds me of badges in 2K, which I'm not super familiar with, so I don't want to talk too much about it. But basically, these are kind of like abilities, skill powers they mentioned in the article, and they give you abilities like the bazooka skill that lets you throw up to 80 yards in the air when you're in the zone. I don't know about this. This sounds like any of the open world action RPGs you'd see on the market these days, where you upgrade your player, or your character rather, and you get different abilities, maybe in like Assassin's Creed or something like that. I don't know what they're going with here, but they're trying to differentiate players and give them different abilities, and I understand that, but implementation's really key. 80-yard throws aren't exactly normal. Maybe it's possible for a couple quarterbacks. They mention the Hot Route Master skill that gives you 4 additional hot routes to choose when making pre-play adjustments, and you can earn up to 7 superstar abilities in face of the franchise, allowing you to experiment with the skills that best match your play style. It sounds like these skills are going to be somewhat important. There's a quote in the article that says it's not about getting to 99 anymore, it's about trying different loadouts. It looks like throughout your career you'll be asked different tough questions, like coming off a loss, who do you want to blame? And it says if you take the Aaron Rodgers route and criticize the coach, your coach will lose confidence in you, but your line will get a boost for the next game. It's the opposite if you choose the Jay Cutler route and blame the offensive line. And in this mode, you can also earn a spot in the Pro Bowl. And because this is kind of tied to franchise, I believe that means that the Pro Bowl is playable even if you're just in franchise and not controlling just one player. I hope so, don't know 100%. And then it says you can play up to 15 seasons with your player because it runs on the connected franchise mode system. If you choose to do this experience but not as a quarterback, you won't get the college, combine, or draft day experience, but the scenario engine will still be there. And right there, I want to move to a different article that talks more about franchise mode and this scenario engine that I'm looking forward to seeing more about. This article mentions that they've been working on updating the logic for trading, free agency, scouting. I'm hoping that scouting is a lot more interesting. I haven't really enjoyed it for a while. A quote in the article says, "The scenario engine is intended to create dynamic storylines week to week based on how you're playing, who you are, your record, your stats, and the personalities around you. It fires off stories that could be one-week stories, but there are also several storylines that are branching." That sounds promising. To achieve this goal, EA Tiburon essentially reverse-engineered major and minor storylines from the last 7 years. If a star player was found to be placed on the trade block, how would he react? If you cut ties with a future Hall of Famer in favor of a rookie, what would that do to the locker room? It looks like to make all this possible, players are going to be given certain personalities, and it mentions Julian Edelman would be a team player, and maybe he could handle roster disruption better than other players, but there are other personalities that just wouldn't handle certain situations very well. They mention if a talented receiver like Martavis Bryant is frozen out for 3 games, he may demand you get him the ball, and if you don't, he might demand a trade. Imagine going through your draft board and actually having to take a look at the personality of players. It looks like in the offseason they'll have some scenarios as well, like if you franchise tag a guy, there could be a risk that he'll retire or demand a trade. I love that idea. Throughout Madden 20, there will be scenarios that arise that give you player boosts or small goals with meaningful rewards. If your team is struggling, perhaps a locker room leader calls a players-only meeting that gives a boost to the position group you think needs the most help. If your team has a short week, maybe you can decide to push them to practice to earn some more XP or give them time off to boost morale. If a young player has a good game, you may trigger a breakout player scenario that issues a specific goal for the next game, and if you meet it, that player could earn a dev trait increase mid-season. It also looks like they are looking at adding more scenarios to this engine throughout the season, so that is very cool. They also talk about scheme fit system changes, which was a system they implemented last year that was kind of a foundation. It really wasn't a complete thing, but it did reward you for building a team that fit your coach's scheme, and the main thing it helped you with was development. If you're a scheme fit, you get more XP and you can therefore upgrade faster. It looks like now they're not going to be rewarding you as much for being a scheme fit. We'll need some more information on what they're actually doing to the schemes. And it looks like Madden 20 is also going to have the run pass option in the game. So they're going to have some new schemes. The West Coast spread, which is all about keeping defenses on their toes with quick strike horizontal passes. The pistol offense is going to be in the game, which I'm really looking forward to. I love the pistol offense in NCAA. They're going to have an air raid system. So definitely gearing things more toward where the NFL is moving and has moved in recent years. They're also trying to bring more variety to defensive systems with 4 new schemes. There's the 4-3 cover 3, which would probably be my scheme that I run with every team. If you want to focus on pressure, you can try out the 3-4 storm scheme, and that's looking for speed up front and linebackers who can jump passing routes. So kind of sounds like a Pittsburgh Steelers style of attacking defense with a lot of zone blitzing. That could be really cool if done right, and there would need to be, I think, upgrades to the O-line play to make zone blitzing a bit more reliable. A counter for spread offenses is the 4-3 quarters, better known as the cover 4, and then the 3-4 disguise, which is all about confusing the quarterback with different concepts and disguising your coverages. Next up, there are superstar abilities, which is a new attempt to try and differentiate these great players from everybody else. So these superstar skills and X-Factor players are things we're really going to want to learn about before the game comes out. There are 70 new abilities in the game. Patrick Mahomes, for instance, has unique animations to allow him to escape the pocket more quickly than other quarterbacks. And there are new abilities that raise accuracy throwing on the run and across the body. Tom Brady can diagnose the defense quickly and find the first open target much faster than other quarterbacks. That sounds amazing. There is another article that talks more about these abilities. One example is the slot machine, which gives a receiver better separation at the line and catching ability versus contact for short routes from the slot position. Vikings receiver Adam Thielen has this ability. Pocket quarterbacks like Tom Brady with the protected ability get more time in the pocket from their offensive linemen engaged in blocks during dropback passes. Rams defensive tackle Aaron Donald has the fearmonger ability that allows him to apply pressure even when he's engaged in a block. You know, now that I think about it, this actually reminds me a lot more of All-Pro Football 2K8. There were different abilities you could assign to players in there that made them different from everybody else. So we have seen it then, a system like this that I think was done pretty well and only had one try to do it. So I'm hoping this is done well. I just know that with balance, that a lot of these new implementations are not done right the first time. Some of these skills are dependent on the time and the game and situation, like Brady's clutch ability, that not only reduces the requirement for him to get in the zone, but also makes it impossible for him to be knocked out of the zone halfway through the fourth quarter in a close game. Most of these abilities do have counters on the defensive side, so there aren't automatic victories, but these players are just ones you'll want to pay extra attention to. Superstar abilities are just the start. There are plenty of great players in the league, but there are also those who are a cut above. These are X Factor players. They have at least 2 superstar abilities, but they also have a zone ability that allows them to get into the zone. The article mentions there are 28 or about 28 offensive X Factor players, 22 defensive ones with no special teamers or offensive linemen among them. So it's not going to be overdone, it seems. 22 defensive ones, 28 offense. It looks like you'll only see a couple X Factors, maybe a game, but there are abilities that it seems that are throughout the mode. X Factor players have to play themselves into the zone for their zone ability to activate. For example, if Juju Smith-Schuster catches 4 run after the catch passes of 20 yards or more, he's in the zone. When he's in the zone, he'll usually win single coverage rack passes with an animation that gives him an advantage in that situation. When in the zone, Cam Newton's tackle breaker ability allows him to frequently break the first tackle attempt against him. Patrick Mahomes' bazooka ability allows him to throw a maximum of 80 yards when he's in the zone. Tom Brady has a quick read zone ability that highlights the first open receiver with a bigger on the field icon. These abilities are powerful, but they can also be turned off. Brady's quick read zone ability deactivates when either he scores a touchdown or you sack him. So it seems like if this is done well, there can be some really big momentum shifts in game that actually have a material impact on the players and not just the concept of cutting a 12-point game to a 6-point game. I'm hoping these abilities don't take over and break the gameplay, and that's my main worry with it right now. Later in the article, it mentions that additional X Factor players can be added during the year. They may even take some out, but they want to keep it around 50 total. Currently, the most superstar abilities a non-X Factor player can have is 2. X Factor players have at least 2 plus their single zone ability. In Face of the Franchise mode, you can have as many as 7 abilities that can be swapped around on your player. These still adhere to an overall archetype, so you can't build an overpowered player. I think that covers the main information. I didn't go through every paragraph here in these articles. I wanted to highlight the key information I wanted to talk about. Overall, I like the sound of the news so far. It could add a lot of life to franchise mode. The abilities, if done right, won't be an issue. I think that the All-Pro Football 2K8 version showed that this can work, and I'm hoping that it's balanced right. The balance here is really important, especially because it mentioned like 70 abilities. The scenario engine, I love what that could bring to franchise mode, but all this only matters if we get the gameplay that we need this year, and I really hope that gameplay takes a major step forward. I wish they would have led with gameplay, but features are always going to get the first news. It's what creates all the hype. Face of the Franchise does sound cool, but only being able to play quarterback makes it a little less interesting to me, but there are some that are really going to enjoy that probably. But the scenario engine, that's a step. I hope there's more to talk about regarding franchise, maybe coaching staffs. I'd love to learn more about the scouting. I do want to know more about these abilities, how you gain them, can you lose them as you get older, or if your overall goes down. We've got to see the full picture here first, but it's a good first step. Hopefully we get more. as the news is released. They have a schedule on the website. Looks like the 2nd is going to be face of the franchise. I'm not sure what they're going to cover that wasn't already in these articles, but if there's new stuff to talk about, I'll be here to talk about it. On the 9th of May, Superstar X Factors, Ultimate Team on the 16th, Gameplay Legacy Fixes on the 23rd, and then Madden Mobile on the 30th. So, does that mean we've kind of already gotten most of our franchise information then from this Game Informer stuff? I don't know. But what do you think of the news, everybody? I do think that there are some good things here to take away, and hopefully Madden 20 is a big step forward from Madden 19, but we'll of course have to wait and see. Thank you all for watching the video, or listening to it rather, probably not much to watch here. But please leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll be talking more about Madden 20 news as we get important information about the game. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I'll see you all again soon. Have a great day.